Most people think they fail at change because they're lazy or undisciplined. They blame willpower. But what if the real reason is far more hidden and far more powerful? You don't fail because you're weak. You fail because your identity, your environment, and the invisible systems around you are quietly working against your goal. And until you fix those, change will never last. In the next few minutes, you'll uncover the psychology of why change fails even when you want it desperately. And you'll learn the surprising science behind how to make it finally stick. Let's begin. Imagine this. Your alarm goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning. You jolt awake for a moment, groggy, blurry-eyed, and with a rush of guilt already creeping in. You reach for your phone. One swipe. Snooze. You'll try again tomorrow, you tell yourself. But tomorrow looks a lot like today. Again and again. You've read the blogs, watched the videos, even put your alarm across the room like they suggest. Yet here you are, stuck in the same loop, fighting your own mind at the break of dawn. Most people think this is about laziness, that it's a lack of willpower. But what if that's completely wrong? What if this is your brain defending your identity? See, when you try to become a morning person, but deep inside, your self-image says, I'm not that type of person, there's a war going on. One part of you wants to change. The other part wants to stay exactly the same, because sameness feels safe. In psychological terms, the subconscious always tries to confirm your existing identity, not your goals. So every time you try to wake early, the part of you that still believes I'm a night owl resists like a quiet saboteur. And so, the alarm rings. The inner resistance kicks in, and without even realizing it, you're sabotaging the change you're desperate to make. But here's the twist. What if identity isn't permanent? What if it's programmable? That brings us to a story that flips this whole idea on its head. A man who rewired his identity with just one sentence, and finally quit a habit he'd failed to break for years. Let's go there next. There's a man, let's call him Ryan. Ryan had tried to quit smoking 8 times. He used nicotine patches. He tried cutting down. He even went cold turkey once, lasting 3 weeks before lighting up again. Each time he'd tell people, I'm trying to quit. But deep down, he believed he was still a smoker trying to be something else. Then one day, something shifted. He was at a party, someone offered him a cigarette, and instead of his usual response, no thanks, I'm trying to quit, Ryan simply said, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. That moment changed everything. See, I'm trying to quit still frames you as a smoker struggling with willpower, but I'm not a smoker is a declaration of identity. One simple sentence rewired his self-image, and suddenly the brain wasn't resisting change anymore, it was reinforcing it. This is the power of identity-based habits. When your actions come from who you believe you are, not just what you want, your habits become automatic. You're not forcing change, you're expressing your new identity. But that raises a new question. If change is about identity, what happens when your environment keeps dragging you back? Because even the strongest mindset can collapse in the wrong surroundings. Which brings us to someone else, a student who wanted to study better, but kept failing. Not because she lacked discipline, but because her environment was sabotaging her silently. Let's see what happened to her next. Now imagine this. There's a college student, we'll call her Anna. Anna was bright, ambitious, and had big dreams. She wanted to score top grades and make her parents proud. She even made a detailed study schedule, color-coded notes, and blocked out time every evening. But night after night, the same thing happened. She would sit at her desk, right next to her bed. Her phone was on the table, Instagram notifications popping, her playlist running in the background. She'd scroll just for 5 minutes, and the hours slipped away. Guilt followed, then shame, then Netflix. Anna kept blaming herself. I'm just not disciplined. But the truth was more hidden and more powerful. Her environment was silently steering her behavior. The bed whispered comfort. The phone offered easy dopamine. The lighting was dim, the chair too cozy. Everything around her nudged her away from focus and toward distraction. Here's the deeper insight. Your behavior is a reflection of your environment, not your willpower. We are not weak, we are responsive. Anna changed nothing about her goals, but one day she changed her room. She moved her study table near the window, away from the bed, installed a bright lamp, kept her phone in a drawer with a timer lock, played white noise instead of music. She even started studying in the library on some days. And almost overnight, her habits stuck. Because when you change the environment, you change the default. But here's what's wild. Even when we do set up the right environment and remove distractions, many people still go back to their old ways. Why? Because they forget to engineer friction, that invisible force that makes or breaks the habit loop. And there's one story that perfectly explains it. Let's go there next. Now picture this. Ronnie had one goal: stop binge-watching Netflix. He wasn't against entertainment, but every night he'd tell himself, just one episode. And every night it turned into 4, then snacks, then sleep at 2 a.m. His mornings, exhausted. His productivity, shot. His confidence, gone. He tried everything, deleting the app, writing notes on his desk, even installing time limit apps, but nothing worked. Because the friction to fall back into old habits was still too low, until one day, something clicked. He heard a simple idea: if you want to break a habit, make it harder to do. So he unplugged his TV, then put the power cable in a different drawer, then hid the remote on a high shelf in another room. And every time he felt the urge to watch, he would have to get up, plug everything in, grab the remote. And by then, the craving faded. It wasn't about self-control. It was about engineering resistance. Here's the core insight. Bad habits stick because they're easy. Good habits fail because they're hard. Friction flips the script, and it works both ways. Ronnie didn't just stop Netflix. He used the same principle in reverse to build a writing habit. He left his laptop open, Word document ready, headphones nearby, every friction removed, every excuse eliminated. He wrote daily, not because of motivation, but because the path was smooth. That's how powerful friction is. But even then, even with systems, identity shifts, and low-friction paths, people often give up. Why? Because they make one fatal mistake. They chase goals instead of building systems. And one woman's story will show you just how destructive that can be. Let's dive in. Now imagine this. Rena had a mission: lose 20 kilograms in 3 months. She was focused, disciplined. The gym became her second home, and her meals were measured to perfection. By month 3, she did it. She looked in the mirror and smiled. Her goal was complete. Everyone praised her. She felt like she had conquered herself. And then, something shifted. She skipped one workout, then another. Just one cheat day, she told herself. That cheat day turned into cheat weeks. Within 6 months, she had gained it all back, and more. What happened? She had won the battle, but lost the war. Because her focus was on the goal, not the system. Here's the trap almost everyone falls into. Goals are momentary milestones. Systems are daily behaviors. One ends, the other evolves. Rena's identity was someone trying to lose weight. Once the goal was met, the identity expired. She didn't become a fit person. She became someone who temporarily did fit things, and, this distinction is everything. When you're system-focused, the actions become part of who you are, not just what you do to get something. You don't go to the gym to lose weight. You go because you're someone who doesn't miss workouts. You don't write to finish a book. You write because you're a writer. And here's the twist. Even with systems in place, some days you'll feel off, tired, unmotivated, disconnected. So, does motivation matter after all? The truth is shocking. Motivation doesn't create action. Action creates motivation. And one man's story, about how he reprogrammed his life with the 2-minute rule, proves it. Let's continue. Now picture this. John wanted to start working out. He bought new shoes, subscribed to a fancy gym, watched endless fitness videos. But every evening, when it was time to leave, he didn't move. He'd tell himself, "I'll go tomorrow when I feel more motivated." Tomorrow became next week. Next week became never. Until one day he stumbled across a ridiculously simple idea, the 2-minute rule. It said, if a habit takes more than 2 minutes to start, make it smaller. So, instead of go to the gym, his new habit became, put on your running shoes and step outside the door. That's it. No 60-minute workout, no heavy commitment. Just step outside. And here's the twist. Once he did that, he almost always continued, because the hardest part, starting. So the insight here is, you don't need motivation to act. You need to act to feel motivated. Action creates progress. Progress builds identity. Identity creates momentum. John didn't see himself as lazy anymore. He saw himself as someone who shows up, even if it's just for 2 minutes. And this principle isn't just about fitness. It applies to writing, reading, meditating, quitting addictions, everything. The smallest step, done repeatedly, rewires your brain. It reinforces the belief that you can change, that you are changing. Because the person who does the small thing consistently will soon be doing bigger things effortlessly. So now that we've explored how change really works, through identity, systems, and friction, let's tie it all together. So what's the real reason most people fail to change? It's not laziness, it's not weakness, it's not lack of willpower. It's because they're playing the wrong game. They're trying to fight themselves, instead of rebuild themselves. But the people who change successfully, they do something different. They don't chase motivation, they engineer it. They don't force willpower, they remove friction. They don't rely on discipline. They create identity loops that reinforce who they're becoming. Every single day, they understand this one unshakable truth. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. They become architects of identity, of habit, of environment. They're not trying to be a better version of themselves. They're becoming it, one small win at a time. And so can you. Start small. Start today. Start with the story you tell yourself. Because change doesn't begin with a new goal. It begins with a new narrative. So, why do we fail at change, even when we want it badly? It's not because we lack willpower. It's because our identity, environment, and systems are misaligned with the change we seek. Your brain is wired to protect the version of you it already knows. When your actions clash with that internal identity, resistance kicks in. That's why saying "I'm not a smoker" works better than "I'm trying to quit." It aligns behavior with belief. Then there's environment, a force far stronger than motivation. We underestimate how much our surroundings nudge or sabotage our actions. The phone on your desk, the TV remote in reach. These aren't just objects, they're behavior triggers. And lastly, systems over goals. Goals are outcomes. Systems are processes. The people who succeed don't just set goals. They design frictionless paths that make the desired action the default. So, the next time change feels impossible, ask, am I trying to force action against identity? Am I relying on will instead of redesigning my world? Because real transformation doesn't begin with force, it begins with alignment. And when identity, environment, and systems align, change doesn't feel like effort, it feels like you. If this resonated with you, please like it, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with someone stuck in the same loop. Because we bring you powerful, transformational videos that help rewire your thinking, so you can rise in life, work, relationships, finances, and become who you were meant to be. That's what Metanoia is all about, the shift from knowing to becoming.